Hello and welcome to the first episode of the B-Side podcast, where we take an honest look at the UK music industry as it is today. I am your host, Saskia Kumba, also known as Sassy, and I am here with a good friend, I'm proud to say, who is also the previous head of data and A&R analytics at Atlantic and Virgin Records, as well as the co-founder for the Open Desk program. He's been doing bits in the UK for some time now and was even made University of Essex Alumnus of the Year for 2024, and now is the founder of 314 Records. If you don't know, get to know. It's my good friend, Jeremiah Gogo.
Thank you for having me, first of all. Thanks for the invite. I think Saskia is one of the best people that exists in the industry in the UK, and it's important that we uplift nice people. So, congrats on episode 1.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, alumnus of the year. It's a really funny, so I was, at the time when I got the note about it, I was in the Virgin office. I work way too late and don't recommend it to people, but I'm usually one of those people where I'm the last ones there. The lights in the office are motion censored, so I'm sitting there working, no one's in the office, and I have to get up and do a little twirl to get the lights back on and then get back to my desk. But I'm in the office, I'm the only one there, and I get a text from my mum that with a screenshot of a letter. And a letter was sent to my mum's house just explaining that I was made alumnus of the year. Would I like to accept the award? I'm like, well, first of all, fucking yes. but also, like, I was nearly in tears. And I couldn't sit down after that. I don't know what it was.
The lights were on in the office.
The lights were on after that for a good amount of time. I was walking up and down, making phone calls. I was pacing, and I've never paced in my life. Like, I was genuinely just pacing.
No,
up
you're
and
not
down.
a pacer.
No, I'm quite calm, collected, logical, and sit and think through decisions. This time I was just pacing up and down, making phone calls, super happy. But it's an award I really appreciate. I'm someone who spent so much time at uni. I got involved in everything whilst I was there. I had 6 jobs during my time there.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was just doing everything: bar, career centre,
Yeah.
resident assistant, checking in on drunk people, all of that kind of thing.
That
done
does
everything.
not surprise me at all. Like, you're the kind of person someone wants when they're in like a bit of a pickle.
Yeah.
And you just come in, as you say, cool, calm, collected. Don't worry, we'll work it out, and like get everyone where they need to be.
A load of those situations happened on Friday and Saturday nights in uni accommodation. But essentially, the kind of wording of why I was given the award was for my services to the music industry, which an honorary award, like, I think people know of honorary degrees, honorary PhDs. Honorary awards are given to just one person each year from most universities do it, I believe, but it's just who represented the uni in a good way. And I think the main thing for it was the internship program, which we might touch on later on, but essentially I created something at Warner's to create an opportunity, a place, an option for people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds to find an entry point to the music industry.
And this is the Open Desk program.
Open Desk program.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so you're saying that came about while you were at Warner, or was it already in the works before you joined?
The idea came during my first time at Universal. However, it got towards the end of my time at Universal and I joined Warner's, and I met a lovely man by the name of Tony Harlow, who was and still is the CEO at Warner Music UK. And
shout out Tony.
Big shout out Tony. But like, you heard real positive stories about him. He was like walking through London when George Floyd happened, helping staff members on more than just the work side of things. He cared about people, and staff weren't just numbers. And so one of the initiatives I pitched him was the Open Desk program, which I had the idea from at Universal, and I was able to execute with the support from Tony. And big shout out to Erica, who was head of HR at the time, and obviously my co-founder Rosie Stone, who was working in HR. And I was like, how do we do this? We sat down every week, had about 15 minutes a week recurring in the calendar. How can we get this patterned? and we got there in the end, which I'm super proud of.
Yes, of course you should be. And shout out Rosie as well. That is amazing. Honestly, because as you say, like when you are in a big organization, when you have something like this, an idea that is sort of off the wall a little bit, it's against like the day to day, let's say, to actually have the encouragement to not only bring the idea to the table, but actually see it through. It must be so empowering, and to see the effect that it does have on these people that do then come through. It's just amazing, amazing work. And yeah, you're just so young. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you're not even like that old, and you're just like helping everyone. You're doing bits. Like, it's mad. We need to get into it.
No, and just to add to that, there were some really cool people that came out of this program. I think a big shout out has to go to some of the first interns that came, because by them doing well, it allowed for funding to continue. It allowed for the business to see that this actually works. And then last month, one of the first interns just won a MOBO award for directing a music video.
Was that Manalia's video?
Yes,
Oh my gosh, I lost my shit.
Big shout
I
out to
didn't
Femi
know.
Bello. Big shout out to
Yes.
Femi Bello. She sent a lovely text after. But it's like, yo, you just get one foot in, and then
See what can happen.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I didn't know that she came through that program. Look, that is amazing. So we're talking about these amazing things you're doing now. Why don't you take us back to how you first got into the music industry?
Okay, so it was a bit random.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been musical my whole life. However, I've never wanted to be a musician of any kind, which I guess might be obvious for people listening, but actually, when you work in the music industry, you find that a lot of people did start wanting to be musicians.
Mm.
And so it's poignant to actually say it because I liked the business side. But I'll go back to early days. I was 7, 8 years old, and saw a trumpet. It was gold. It was shiny. I thought, yeah, I want some of that. I started playing the trumpet purely because it was shiny. And then I remember actually losing my baby teeth, and then I had to stop playing for a couple of months because there's a little kind of sound you have to make when you play trumpet.
Okay.
And you can't do that without your front teeth.
So you basically need teeth.
Yeah. So that's just how early I was playing, and I done through the grades. I played piano, done through some grades on piano as well. Did that music theory exam that you have to do before you pass grade 5.
Yep.
But that wasn't like I wasn't trying to be a musician. I knew that was kind of when I finished secondary school. That was kind of it. Went to University of Essex. I studied maths and economics. Did a master's in financial economics, and really I just did the master's because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it was getting towards the end of my master's, and I think things were beginning to pick up from artists from the area I grew up in. So you started to see Stormzy doing things. You started to see Krypton Conan. There was a whole kind of Croydon, Southwest London scene blowing up.
Yeah.
And then you started hearing of a manager. Oh, what's a manager? What do they do? And you start realizing that there's a whole economy behind these artists, and actually good music is cool, but a good team is what is needed. And I later on realized that. But I'm in the uni library finishing my master's, and I've literally just gone on Google. I kid you not, this is the story. I've gone on Google in the library, and I've typed, what is the biggest record label in the world?
Okay.
The first result said Universal Music Group. I went on the Universal Music website, clicked UK jobs, saw there was a job as a commercial intern. I said commercial is a word that I hear a lot in economics.
Yeah, okay.
Probably sounds like something I might be good at.
Yeah.
I clicked apply and went into the office for an interview. A couple of weeks later, I was interviewed by Alexa Fanning, who at the time was Director of Commercial Intelligence. David Hawkes, who was President of the Commercial and Creative Services Division, was a great guy as well. And I just hit it off.
Yeah.
And that was my entry. But I realized that why I was coming into the music industry wasn't necessarily for music reasons. It was because maths and commercial required a level of analysis. Could you use Excel? Music had moved on to streaming. This is 2017. And so a lot more onus was put on looking at numbers of things, looking at numbers of tracks. And I was able to speak to that just from using Spotify myself and talking about numbers. And I said, I can use Excel. That's
They were
really,
like, hi.
yeah. And that's really my entry. It's a really boring, long-winded way of saying I got very lucky, but I also came in on a not non-music side, but the commercial team has always been slightly less musical than the labels, which I'm sure as people who go on to listen to more episodes of this podcast and figure out kind of the structure of an organization, you'll realize that the music industry isn't all musical. You've got lawyers, you've got commercial people, you've got finance people, and I was in that pod where they were non-musical people. They were lawyers, they were commercial guys, they were finance people, and that's kind of how I started.
But isn't it so interesting that it's like two of your passions coming together, and it just goes to show that this is why we're talking about it, because you don't have to be, you want to be front and center, you want to be on the stage. Like it can be functional, it can be like a business, and you need those teams as well. It's not just, to make the money. Like, this is how it makes the releases come out, and like be seen.
Yeah, actually, I think it's really important. Like,
Of course.
one of my goals this year is to shout about the roles available in music.
Yes.
Because had I known, I would have been better equipped.
100%.
My little cousin just studied law, and I asked, hey, why don't you come work in music? And she looked as if, like, I've studied law.
Yeah, well, that's just a waste of my degree.
Yeah, but it's not, because there's lawyers.
Yes, it's so true. And I was in the same boat. Like, my way in was so random as well. And like in a past life, trained as an actor, like that's what I was doing. But I was the same. I grew up playing the piano, the guitar. Like I could play, like I'd pick up something, I could play it. Like it was such a gift. So once I kind of put the acting kind of to bed and was like, okay, I still need to do something I'm interested in. Like I need a passion, like my passion. What am I passionate about? And it was literally, it was music. I was like, of course it's music. Like I was still playing instruments and singing, and I was like, but I don't actually know how the industry works. Like, what can I do? I don't know what I can do. And so this is the reason that we know each other, is because I started at BPI just on reception. And BPI, for those that don't know, is the UK organisation for recorded music. And they basically work with the government on regulations and things in the industry. They fund musicians to, it used to be tour in other territories, now it's market in other territories, thank you Brexit. And and stuff like that. They have members events, blah, blah, blah. So that's where I learned how everything works, how the music business works. And it was an eye opener, because I was very much a music fan and was like, I just had no idea. When you listen to something, you just don't think about how it got there, like how it got onto your phone, how it got like in the shop, whatever it is. And that's how we met. We were at a members event, and I think someone, it might have been Cassandra at the time, introduced us.
Shout out
Cassandra Strauss. And and then we just hit it off. And like, she knew we'd hit it off. And of course, like, look at us now. And it was one of those things, like, if you're just open and just have no like expectation, just see where it takes you. Because now I'm doing something that is very much label focused, like in the music team. Prior to that, I was in the sync team, where you basically pitch music to be used on any kind of visual media. So that's advertising, TV, film, gaming, socials now. So I've had a lot of different experiences, and I think that's why I wanted to talk to so many people, because the way in is not straightforward. And it's just being okay with that.
And it's okay to like you said, we met at one of the BPI events. But and I tell this to, I think it holds true for any industry. But if you just get out there, put yourself out there. I was turning up to every BPI event I got invited to, because I was an intern, new, look at this. But also there's a kind of misconception that I think exists in the public kind of discourse, that there's no nice people in music, or like things are
Can be,
relationships are
yeah,
surface level or
pretentious.
transactional,
Yeah, yeah.
etc., etc. But I think Saskia, Cassandra, a lot of people we've mentioned here
Mm,
are perfect examples of there are nice people in music.
100%.
You can actually just be real with someone, get to know
Mm,
someone, and the more, I guess, I realized this slightly later on in my career, the ability to bring myself as me to work.
yeah.
Um, I'd say I built a lot of good relationships off of just good people being nice to each other. But I was still playing up to wanting to look good at work and wearing a nice shirt and wearing black trousers. And I think as we grow in an industry as creative as this one,
Mm,
you start to realize that all the stuff you might have done in internships
yeah.
in finance when you were younger
Yeah.
doesn't apply. You can be yourself. You
Mm,
can come into work as you.
yeah.
And as long as you are a good person, you should
Mm.
find other good people to gravitate towards. And that doesn't just mean with personal relationships, but they also come in handy career wise too.
This is so true. And like it leads me on to my next question in that you're now setting up your own label and I think part of that is, of who you know and the relationships you've built already. So tell us the name of your label.
So the name is 314 Records,
No, no,
and
no, no.
but 314 is, for me, it represents a lot of the data driven stuff that we've helped to pioneer as I've come through the industry. And I'm working with a lot. When I say we, I mean I'm working with a lot of people that I came up with. As Saskia said, I think the relationships you make in an industry is really important on your way up. And for those that aren't nerds like I am, 314 comes from the first three digits of pi. So in maths, pi is used quite a lot, 3.14159. And then there's a whole bunch of
I
digits
mean,
after
sure, I'm just gonna
that.
believe you on that one.
But the first three digits, it's a subtle way to kind of nod my hat to the fact that the label is something that is a data driven, while we still kind of focus on creativity, we focus on artists, but the fact is we use data to inform decision making. It means that the risks or the bets we place are more informed and
Mhm.
slightly, hopefully, less risky. And it means that also when an artist comes on board, we're able to help their song reach its full potential by using data to drive decision making with marketing, etc., etc. And there's a bunch of things happening in the space at the moment, but I'm very blessed and fortunate to be in a position where I was the data person of a
Mm.
couple of labels,
Yeah.
and two of the three majors I've been the data person and had, and therefore I have the ability now to leverage that kind of and the relationships I made along the way there to build data tools and also to work with the creatives. Some of the creatives that I think have been really instrumental to my success that are helping to advise on the A&R side, um, label presidents. Big shout out to everyone that's kind of given me time and support along the way. Alec Boateng, Phil Christie, Tony Austin, all the people that helped along the way. But there's um there's there's hope. There's hope. I'm pretty hopeful. I've got my fingers crossed. I know I'm just jumping into the world of entrepreneurship, and I know
Mm.
that there's gonna be a couple of years of really hard work
Mm-hmm.
ahead. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it.
So I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes, like because of where you go. Because since I've met you, I've just seen you just rise and rise and rise. And so I have no doubt, like when you told me you were launching this, I was like, of course he is. Of course he is. And it's going to do amazing because it's Jeremiah. Like, guys, like you just, if you don't know, you need to get to know because, like, if he says something, he does it. And like the result is always there. And like, even if, things happen that you're not expecting or you weren't hoping for, you always bounce back and you just go harder. And it's so like inspirational for people to see and for me to see, especially. So we've talked about where you are now, where you started. What happened in the middle?
Okay. And I think I want to touch on what you said about bouncing back
Yes.
because I, and for everyone listening, it may look from posts and whatnot that
Mm-hmm.
I've had a good career and things
Oh
look nice,
yes,
but
yes, yes.
as Saskia correctly points out, there is bare shit that happens. Not every idea turns to gold,
Mm-hmm.
but when it doesn't, you bounce back. And I think that's literally the most important thing is,
Yeah.
and I struggled with it because I've got like anxiety. I've got um I'm an overthinker naturally, and that's been that way my whole life.
Mm.
And so I struggled to do something new and accept that something might have failed, or I'm the kind of person that takes 45 seconds to press send on an email because I'm
Mm-hmm.
just scared of all the repercussions that
Mm.
might come, or
Yep.
I'm have I completed this properly? Is it perfect enough? But as I've grown, I've come to realize that sometimes
Yeah.
you try and move fast, you do it, you
Mm.
test.
Mm.
If it fails, you bounce back.
Yeah.
And so hopefully what you do see on my CV is just the wins, but
Mm.
what isn't shown, because we don't all post and sing and dance about the shit that doesn't work,
Yeah.
but there is a whole bunch of shit in the middle there that perhaps didn't go so well. But
Mm.
I think it's important, the bounce back story, because for anyone trying to work in the music industry, you 1,000,000% won't have a hit every time
No.
you release a record.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And even just like the state of the industry right now in terms of redundancies,
Mm.
there's a lot of bouncing back that people are doing, and it's so important. I'm the same as you. Like, I overthink, I have anxiety. Like, starting this thing on my own, I was like, who's gonna listen? And it's the point of it's something like it's something you want to do,
Yeah,
and that's good enough,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And that's once you have that confidence of this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm saying, it speaks to people. And so where you are now is not a surprise. So when you were at Universal, commercial intern,
Yes.
were you moved up before you moved to Warner?
Yeah, so I came in as a commercial intern, and
Mm-hmm.
funny story,
Mm-hmm.
uh, shout out to Joanna Fasania. She was the Amazon account manager at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wore a suit for my whole first week to work.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Oh my god.
And for those listening that might think so, like, this is the music industry, and it is not, it's frowned upon. You,
Yeah,
you
look at
can't
you
come
like,
in a suit, like,
yeah, where are you going?
yeah. I mean, later on down the line, I had bosses that came in like shorts and sometimes sliders in the
Yeah,
office, like
trackies.
trackies,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And that kind of helps to paint a picture of how egregious a suit was
Yeah.
at the time. But yeah, Joanna pulled me to the side, said, "Yo, you don't need to be wearing a suit, you know." But this comes back, and I think I skipped this on my journey into the music industry. But um, I was super active in uni. I had loads of jobs. However, every summer I also done internships. So I had
Wow.
Bank of England one summer, I had Barclays another,
Mm-hmm.
I had Sovereign Capital, which was a private equity company. But that's that finance route.
Yeah.
So you can imagine
The suit makes sense. Yeah. The suit
exactly,
makes sense now.
exactly. You can imagine the shock on my African immigrant parents' face when I told them I'm going to go work in music, after they've been seeing that my trajectory might have been
They're
finance. He
like,
studied maths. He's doing so well, and
yeah.
now he's going to go and play drums.
Say psych right now. Say psych right now. Honestly.
I think my mum still thinks I play drums. Like, I don't know what she thinks I do. um, but yeah, so I got in and wore a suit for the first week. Once I quickly got over that and started to realize and fit in and come out of my shell a little bit,
Mm.
um, I very quickly, 5 months in, that internship was made permanent because a role came up as a junior analyst in the Amazon account team. And at the
Okay.
time, Amazon was still doing a lot of physical music. It still is.
Mm.
But they had to build some process to handle write downs and markdowns. And so that basically means discounts. So
Mm-hmm.
what happens is Universal or a record label would produce a whole bunch of vinyl and CDs,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to take it to HMV, Amazon, and wherever else they sell physical music.
Mm-hmm.
They sent all of this stock over to them, and maybe they've still got some stock left,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to get rid of it. So you give them a discount. And so essentially, how do you track all of these changes? How do you
Okay.
make, so it was a lot of the kind of fundamental reporting.
Yes.
And I think it's important to understand this for later on in the conversation when it comes time to why I think my career's gone the way it has is because I had a lot of the foundational. I really worked and put in work into the shit that no one wants to do,
Yeah.
the shit that sounds quite boring,
Yeah.
but it means that I understand what a discount on the PPD or dealer price of a CD
Mm-hmm.
gets you, and what the downstream effects of that are to the business and to an artist, to copyright royalty percentages, etc., etc. Having that deep understanding
Yeah.
means that when I later on was able to dabble into A&R, I had a foundation that a lot of A&Rs didn't,
Yeah.
because they generally came more from the creative side of the industry as
Yeah.
managers or
Yeah.
artists themselves, or etc.
Very
etc.
much so.
So that was my first promotion in the commercial team at Universal.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. He's taking a deep breath.
I just didn't know
Had
if you
so
want me to
many
move on to the
promotions.
next. Oh no. But no, then I carried on, and there was a point that someone wrote my name on a pillow in the office because I was in
Oh,
every
mate.
morning and I left at 10 p.m., 11 p.m. most nights.
Mm.
I was doing 12, 13 hours a day for the first year or so. Like,
And why do you think that is? Do you think you were anxious that you just wanted to come across as like a hard worker, or you felt like you couldn't switch off?
that's a good question, and I probably need some therapy to help me answer that. I don't know if
That's
we've got...
another podcast.
Exactly. But no, I didn't grow. I grew up on a council estate like a lot of people. But I mean my life was fine. My parents done well. It was totally, I guess, normal for most people that
Yeah,
are
yeah.
of a similar background.
Mm.
But I also really wanted to succeed in whatever I'd done. And I think more than motivation for success, because I don't really like spend big money or anything like that. It was more a fear of failing, but also I was just grateful. Like, I felt so grateful that I'm meeting artists in the office
Yeah.
mad story. Yeah, I'm an intern.
Mhm.
There's a big artist called Shania Twain. I
Might have heard
didn't.
of her, yeah.
Yeah. Oh well, I hadn't at the time. I was still a little bit hood in the way I was
Not the
like.
demographic, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Country, for those that don't know, country musician.
Yeah.
Enormous, probably the biggest ever.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm in the lift at Universal with her, and I've popped in the lift, touched my card, pressed my floor. She's pressed her floor. Oh, we're going to the same floor, and I go, oh, what do you do here? And then she goes, and then she goes, no. First I said, are you going to EMI? Because we're on the same floor.
Yeah.
And we were pressed the same number in the lift.
Uh-huh.
Then she goes, oh yeah. And I go, oh, what do you do at EMI?
Oh.
And then she goes, oh no, I'm actually an artist. Well, bless her, because she was really kind about it
Yes,
all.
of course.
She goes, oh, I'm actually an artist. And I go, oh well, what kind of music do you make? And I feel like the reason I didn't pick up on anything being like
Off.
a little bit off is
Yeah.
because she was just so
Of course,
natural and
gracious,
comfortable. Yeah.
yeah.
She was like, oh no, I make country music.
Yeah.
I go, oh, how's that going?
Yeah.
These times when I get back to my desk, I see she's sold 10 million albums. What? But again, it's moments like this where I'm just like, I'm so grateful.
Yeah, this is where I am.
Yeah, I don't need to wear a suit.
Yeah.
So I've stripped that off.
Yeah.
I'm bumping into artists in the lift.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why the hell would I go home?
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do at home?
Yeah.
Eat jollof rice and then go to sleep? I don't get it. Which, I guess at the time, obviously, I was still living with my parents, and our house wasn't like the biggest at all. And so I don't want to go share bedrooms. I have just people up. Let me just chill in the office.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do extra stuff. If there's an event, I'm there.
Mm.
And so it was a combination of things. There wasn't one thing. There wasn't much to do at home. I was very grateful to be there. Slightly fear of failure, but also determined to succeed. And it's just a little bit of a combination of all of those.
Do you think now, you've moved out? Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
This economy, it's hard.
It's mad.
Do you still have that gratefulness, like, that drives you?
Do you know what? That's a very interesting question, and I do. I by the way, I don't recommend anyone work that many hours. It's not
No,
healthy.
I'm
It
sorry.
will make you ill.
I don't
100%.
care if I come across lazy. I'm never doing that. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
never,
Mm-mm.
never. Don't
It's not life and death. Okay, we're saving PDFs.
exactly.
All right.
Someone put it into perspective. Like, yo, ultimately, you're just selling CDs, bro. Like, and that's real. Is that real? All of this is just to sell CDs, and
Yeah.
obviously a whole bunch of other stuff. But
Mm.
um, I am a little bit still kind of have a slightly unhinged sense of determination to succeed. But um, I had a kind of realization that the reason I am still motivated is refreshed every so often.
Mm.
So I'll go through a period of just kind of taking it as it comes, but then I'll see an artist, see a story, go to a show,
Mm-hmm.
and hear of someone who got all the way to where they got to out of kind of their determination as an artist, their creativity, telling their story, and ultimately I've gone from feeling grateful to feeling a sense of responsibility.
Mm.
An artist has entrusted us, signed a deal to entrust us with telling their story, sharing their art with the world.
Mm.
And once in a while, this doesn't happen that often, but like I'll be just random. I'll be at a show or at a launch event or whatever, and I'll look around and realize like, oh shit, like this artist has put everything into this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we have to go out and do a job for them.
Mm.
And it's not really fair not to not do your best. I
Yeah.
don't think,
Yeah.
because an artist ultimately, like, there's things online you see about artists and major label
Yeah.
deals and da da da,
Yeah.
but ultimately they are signing to entrust you with
Yeah.
getting the best from
Yeah.
for their project.
Absolutely.
And hopefully in an ideal world everyone wins, right?
Mm.
The label makes money and they make money, and they, outside of money though, they're able to put their project to the world. They're
Yeah.
able to find the right audience for the
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit like we should do better for the artist, and therefore putting in a little bit of extra work here and
Mm.
there,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
for me is okay, because ultimately the end goal is to make sure that the artist's work is seen in the way that they wanted it to be.
It's so true. I think as well it can be difficult at times when you do work at a major, because it can work like a bank, like
Yeah.
you're in finance. Like it's just all over all the time. Like work, 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 turnover, 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 and you can lose sense of who it's actually for. Like it's loads of emails, it's loads of meetings, it's loads of numbers, and it can distance you from the actual purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't fault anyone who has had that experience. I think at times we all felt that, like, and it's that thing of listening to the song or seeing them live or even having a chat with them and being like, oh shit, this is what drives me.
Mm.
And it's so important to have that fire lit in you.
Mm.
I think anyone listening that does work at a label, I'm not saying a major or anything, I hear you, I feel you, and just try and find that fire. I think that is what can be stamped out a little bit, day to day
Yeah.
office things, but the purpose is the point.
And I think the fire can be different for everyone. Like everyone's
Absolutely.
motivations are different.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, for me, seeing people go from 0 to
yeah.
100
Mm.
is great. Like,
Mm-hmm.
from a self-centered perspective, it's just fun to watch someone's journey. But then from a selfless perspective, it's
Mm.
fun to help with that journey, and ultimately can they can then help a whole bunch of other people. I mean, I've seen like real change, right? I've seen artists come in who have kind of difficult backgrounds, and then they're able to give people jobs in their team. Their mates can now follow them around. One does social media,
Mm.
and then fast forward a couple months, I've seen that same social media person having had success with this big artist and his work out there. He's learnt about social media, and he's then getting calls from other artists, and
Yeah,
now it's a business.
yeah, yeah.
And that's just your mate who you may have been in and out of, for the person I'm thinking of specifically, may have been in and out of trouble growing up, but
Mm.
ultimately they've been given a career
Mm.
because we have managed to do a good job of
Yeah.
putting their music out to the world,
Yes.
and their mate now has a career from it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so yeah, everyone's motivation can be different, but I try and see those little things and stay alive, stay working.
No, that's so true. So like, what then motivated you to move to Warner? Was it just like a position came up, you were feeling ready to move onwards, or
So what happened was I'd done the Amazon job. So
yeah?
done the Amazon job for 6 months,
Mm-hmm.
then got a commercial analyst role, and this commercial analyst role was fairly new, right? Um this was how do we analyze streaming data to get the best from it. And so it meant every month or so we'd speak to all the labels, Island, EMI, Polydor, Decca, and figure out what campaigns they've got and how do we use data to optimize these campaigns.
So were they not doing that before?
They were, but not in a big data way kind of thing. So like big data is like where you store a lot of data in the database and you query it with SQL. Back in the day, it was a lot of Excel stuff. Hey, we've sold this many, we've returned this many.
Yeah.
And quite often they would hire consultants to do it from outside of music to figure out the data. And so this commercial analytics team, which Alexa was leading, was not the first in the industry by any means, but it was one of the first in Universal's building to really support the labels with that analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd done that for about a year and a bit. And to answer your question on what motivated me to go to Warner's, I just got a call. I'm very blessed and fortunate in that I think we work in an industry where your work gets seen quite a lot. If something does well, if an album does well, it's very visible.
Yeah.
And the industry sees it, and people start talking about who done what. People start sending around reports. People start kind of talking about what kind of this analytics thing is. And I got a call randomly from a number I didn't recognize, and they said their name was Derek Allen, and he ran the commercial division for Warner Music UK. Do I want to come in for a chat? And I thought, oh, this is spicy, isn't it?
That's mad. That's mad.
But I'm thinking at this time I'm 25 now, so I've been in Universal 2 and a bit years. And he wanted me to be a senior commercial analytics manager was the job title. And that would mean having a team. That would mean kind of doing things that I thought I wasn't ready for because, I've been here 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, I work my socks off, but I don't know nothing about management.
Yeah,
like,
managing a team of people.
Yeah, like I remember funny story when I started, someone asking me, can I go on holiday? And I just thought like, yeah, why not, bro? Like, so anyway, I sat down, had the chat with Derek. There was a lovely lady there called Rachel Stones, who incredible person, but she was retiring, and she'd been doing data this long, right? She used to smoke cigarettes and write with a pencil the number. I swear, write with a pencil the sales of cassettes.
In like a book.
Yeah, I don't
like a
know.
logbook.
Yeah, something like that. But she used to tell me stories on how she started, and
That's
that
mad.
was like her kind of start. And she
Yeah.
went all the way through to like the world of Excel and using Excel to track. And now it was moving into a world of streaming data and big data where you needed SQL and Python skills to actually query the data. And that's where I got my move to Warner's. Why did I go? I think is I do a lot and I keep moving, and I think it's important to explore opportunities, but I don't think jumping around is right for everyone. But I didn't know if I was ready for the responsibility, but I wanted the new challenge.
Yeah, but that is amazing though, isn't it? Like, you weren't sure if you were ready, but you still went.
Yeah.
I always find a reason not to do something.
Mm,
But it's like, no one else is giving me that reason. I'm giving it to myself.
exactly.
When you actually allow yourself to just do it anyway, like, it is such a huge deal. And I think just to have that confidence of, I'll work it out.
Yeah.
It makes such a difference.
And also, like, if someone gives you a call, it means that you're wanted.
Yes.
They've obviously seen something that meant that.
How did he even find your number?
So I I learned later on that it was a couple of projects, and then we had a mutual friend at, I think at the BPI actually,
Okay.
that may have recommended me when they were looking for
Uh-huh.
people to replace Rachel Stones.
Mhm.
But um, I'm not sure exactly how these things happen.
Yeah.
But again, this is why I say if you are working in the industry, relationships is mad important, because you
100%.
can do the best work in the
Mm.
world,
Mm.
but if your name doesn't come up in that conversation,
Mm. Mm.
then ultimately um, you miss out on an opportunity, even if your work is really great.
Mm.
So I think, yes, do good work, yes, like get your head down, but ultimately you have to put in some work into relationships too,
Mm.
because those kind of relationships are the people that will put your name forward when a job like that is being discussed in circles that you're not quite in yet.
Absolutely. So when you went to Warner, what was the size of the team that you were managing?
So yeah, I had two commercial analysts, I
Mhm.
guess,
Mhm.
um, and then later on an intern. But I was like, I was 25, man. Like I was 26 to about turn
Right.
26. I didn't know. I
That
didn't
is
know
mad.
what the hell I was doing at the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
But I got very fortunate in that that team that I inherited had done an incredible job and were already kind of well oiled.
Mm.
Rachel Stone's done an incredible job of handing over bits and bobs, and it was a well oiled machine, and I was able to learn without having too much pressure on building new things, because, like I said, they had done such a great job of handing it over to me
Mm.
in a good place. But as you well know, 2 months into this is January 2020.
Mm.
2 months in,
Mhm.
the big C word that I don't know if we're allowed to say without getting pulled off of platforms happened. But no, COVID came in March, and a lot of things changed, and it meant learning a new way of working. One of the fun things that changed, which ultimately affected my career in a really positive way, is the rise of TikTok. Everyone being at home,
Okay.
the rise of TikTok, and the TikTok was called the T word for a long time in meetings, because it just kept coming up
Yeah.
March, April, early COVID days.
Yeah.
And as we all now know, it's necessary.
Yeah.
It's necessary to drive any hits and or career,
Mhm.
or building an audience.
Yeah. In such a short space of time.
Absolutely.
That is mad that you were kind of saw the rise of TikTok in terms of how it affects a release. So when did it? Do you remember like when it first sort of came up that it was like popping off, and you were like, oh, this is maybe something we should keep an eye on.
Yeah, so I think quite early the we was figuring out ways of working. So it was Microsoft Teams or Zoom. What do we use? It was all of this kind of stuff on
Mhm.
figuring out how do we work from home. And then you found out that things would very quickly go viral.
Mm.
Or it felt, you didn't have any numbers to back it up yet,
Mhm.
but you could just sense, why are things going from 0 to 100 in a much quicker time?
Mm.
Like a kid will go from completely unknown to suddenly streaming, hey, next week you might be in the charts. What? How did that
Mm.
happen?
Mm.
And then some of the early records, I took a very keen eye on a lot of the black music records that came out during that time. So like, I think this was slightly later, but like A1 and J1 era
Mm.
of TikTok, that
Yeah.
kind of A1
Yeah.
era, um, they had some really cool people working on them, and ultimately we got into a meeting, and in the commercial team at Warner's, Atlantic, Warner Records, and Parlophone would ask us for some reports.
Mhm.
And you start to see some graphs with random songs popping up and doing really, really well. And the labels wanted to sign these kind of records.
Yeah.
And that is a good segue into how I ultimately ended up moving upstairs inside the Warner building
Mhm.
to Atlantic and got one foot in A&R, because they wanted to sign these records. They needed data.
Yeah.
Um, I was the guy in the center providing the data on the
Mm.
records.
Mhm.
TikTok was data almost didn't exist, and so we had to start to figure out, how do we analyze this? How do we start to get more data from TikTok? And that's when I started learning about A&R from the data perspective.
Yeah.
Um, and then I got another call saying, from another number. It's a common theme you're gonna hear, saying, "Hey, do you want to come upstairs and have a chat? And that was just us talking about how we could maybe shape a role that meant that I can stay doing data, but I can also help
Mm.
support in signing decisions.
I feel like these days, obviously, as we said, TikTok plays a huge role in things possibly getting signed, alongside loads of other factors. But would you say that A&Rs now have more of a data focus than they might have had, saying back in the day? Like back in the day, A&R, they went to a gig and they were like, that kid's got something, I'm going to sign them. Whereas now it's like, I guess it's the 2025 version of that is they see them online or they hear the song on someone's video.
Yeah.
Is that literally it?
Yeah, I mean, essentially. So I found that same thing, right?
Yeah.
And I was almost nervous. And actually, I still think to this day,
Mm.
some of the old guard in the music industry hate me for ruining it. No, when I'm not saying I didn't ruin it, and neither did anyone
No.
else that jumped in. It was just the direction of travel.
Yeah.
But there was some hesitancy at first from some of the kind of more traditional old school A&Rs. However, I think things very quickly changed when it just became a necessity. Your
Mm.
label died if you didn't
Mm.
look at data. You have to.
Mm.
And also a lot of the younger A&Rs came in already scrolling through TikTok, so they had an idea of what to look for. A lot of the recommendations that would come in from them was just what they had seen while scrolling through their For You page.
Mm.
And then they learn, oh, if I send this TikTok to Jeremiah, he can tell me about the record. And then when it comes time to present it in the A&R meeting, my presentation looks better
Mm.
because I've got some numbers to back it up,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore the president's more likely to sign off budget for
Yeah.
the track or the artist on a more long term deal. Um, and so that quickly happened, and I think as kind of new A&Rs came in, they were very more TikTok centric, and the old guard, I think, begun to warm up to the idea. And look, I would never say that they should ever drive, should ever be the only thing that you look at when
Mm.
making a decision in music. And I stand by that for anyone ever,
Mm.
because nuance is so important, culture is so important,
Mm.
the community is so important. There's no point in having all the numbers, but then having no community or culture to help
Mm.
drive the hit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am not one of those data people that goes data, data, data. No,
Yeah.
like, we still need our ears. Um, Music is an emotive product,
Mm.
and we are selling an emotive product.
Mm.
I think it's impossible to sell an emotive product without human uh decision making, human intuition, the
Mm.
ability to decipher the small nuance between a slightly happier sounding song and a slightly sadder sounding song.
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, if you don't know that, you and you sign purely based on data, you struggle to make the correct marketing decisions after you have the record. And there's no point sitting on a record and waiting for it to die. You
Yeah.
want to maximize what you get from it, and
Mm.
the artist deserves it. The artist deserves you to want to maximize that record too.
Mm.
They don't want to give you a record for you to sit on it.
Yeah, I think there can be that misconception that labels can depend now a bit on TikTok numbers. You know,
Mm.
what's your social following? But coming from someone who literally has worked in the nexus of it, saying, you know, we still have the human element, we still need the connection. It gives me hope. I think that's what made me a bit cynical working in music. It was seeing the heavy hitters sometimes. You know, there's like a lot of, I don't want to call them one hit wonders, but say like a single that everyone knows, but that's it. And so they get signed off the back of that, and then the next single doesn't do as well, and then they get dropped. Like, that's what made me go, oh, so it's just about the next drop rather than the longevity of it.
And I think you're absolutely right there.
Mm.
I genuinely think you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people didn't necessarily understand how we should be using data in
Mm.
music.
Mm.
And I think is the main reason 314 is going to exist. And one of the main reasons I feel it will be successful is understanding that
Yeah.
there is a singles market and there is an artist market. I think major labels were built on longer term deals, i.e., they spend a lot of money on album one, and make you a star, and then album 2, 3, 4, as you're already a superstar, you can then recoup the money on. And that's like a really traditional model. Nowadays, that doesn't exist, and we need to move on from that. There will be one hit wonders, there will be just songs, and then there'll be artists that you need to develop. We shouldn't need to conflate the two. They don't need to be both. Sometimes people can just get a lucky hit, and that's okay. Hopefully they do really well for their family as a result of it, and can look after their family as a result of it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you then need to make that person a star. Because a hit is great. Your favorite artist is also great. Both things can exist at the same time, and they don't need to take away from one another.
No, that's so true. So how long were you in the A&R team from the data side in Atlantic?
Cool. So after I took the Atlantic job, which was head of data and A&R analytics, I done that for about 18 months or so. Just under 2 years, actually, 19. And then had another one of those phone calls.
What is going on? What is going on? Everyone has your number. That's insane.
I know, that's a problem. That is a problem.
But when I get like an unknown number, my phone says suspected spam, and so I don't answer it. Maybe I'm missing out on all these things.
No one was blocking their number. It was just a number that weren't saved. But yeah, I could see what number it was. But anyway, that was turned out to be my next boss, who would be the president of Virgin Music Group, and at the time, that is was going through its transition. So to give a little bit of an explanation, a major label has a bunch of labels inside it. It's got the central teams, which I was working for in commercial, but it's also got a distribution company. And for Universal, that was Caroline. For Warner's, it was 88, and for Sony, it was The Orchard. Caroline was going through its transition to become Virgin Music Group. So it had bought a company called Ingrooves, and it wanted to become this big distributor, which now further down the line, you guys would have seen in the news some acquisitions of catalogs like Downtown, etc., etc. And so it was going through that transition, and they were looking for someone to head up kind of data A&R in a sense, but this was described more as business development. And there's a slight difference, I think, in the A&R biz dev, because A&Rs are more musical. They follow a project. They A&R the project. They help producer agreements, this, that, all of the kind of stuff that comes with making and finishing an album. However, biz dev, I'd say, would be more deal making, doing deals, and they wanted to do some analysis on some of these labels that were coming in. They wanted me to find some new labels, and I had a great time there. I'd done that at Virgin, and I felt good to be back in the Universal building, but it was a bit different the first time that I was there. I had now been out for 3 and a bit years, for 4 years-ish, but it felt different. The vibe was different.
In a good way or a bad way?
Both. There were pros and cons to it. There were pros because it was slightly more future looking. It was a bit more of my vibe in that people were looking at tech solutions to things, and however, it was also the energy, and this might not necessarily be anything to do with Universal. It might have just been that I was young once, and now I come back and I'm old. And so the first time I'm at Universal, I'm like running around as a kid, having so much fun, so gassed to go to concerts. And now I come back and someone offers me a concert ticket. I'm like, do you know what? Dinner sounds nice. Get an early night.
Yeah, what time start? 9?
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Do you know what I mean? And so it might have just been me. And I had a whole bunch of other things happening with regards to real life as well at the time. So I loved it though. I loved it. I learned a lot. And I felt like I learned what I needed to.
Okay.
And then came my kind of idea. I'll tell you where it actually came from, the idea.
Yeah.
Um, Virgin, as a distribution company, were distributing a bunch of labels.
Mm-hmm.
And one of those labels was called Desi Trill. Um, Incredible people, Shabs and Tai Tai. Tai Tai, I believe, founded Rock Nation with Jay-Z.
Mm-hmm.
And I got chatting to them, and I don't know if you know, like, Black American music industry execs are like different gravy. They're so
Yeah.
incredible in the way that they're able to inspire. And
Mm.
in one conversation, it's, yo, man, you gotta be an entrepreneur. And, you know, I felt it.
You're
And
like, okay.
yeah, look, I've had the idea. I feel like I knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I remember I'm the first person that contacted Mal Smith during this recent run. And Mal Smith, who's an artist doing really well at the moment, on tour with Ed Sheeran, won a
Yeah.
Brit Award.
Yeah.
But he had a song that felt like it was going viral, but it hadn't yet quite got there. And I had seen signs on it, thinking this is going to be huge. I spoke to his manager Eric in Nashville, done a couple of calls on Zoom, and we didn't end up signing it. He ended up going to Sony, but that was validation for me in
Mm.
that what I'm looking at works.
Yeah.
The models that I'm building works.
Mm.
I understand what kind of the scene is saying,
Yeah. Yeah.
and overlaying that human interpretation with the data. And I felt like that validation was all I needed to say, yeah,
Mm.
I can go off and do this. And so that's where the idea for 314 kind of was born.
Mm.
It took a while to create, to build, to implement. But whilst I was doing that, I'm always, as usual, doing a whole bunch of other things. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the things I'd done at Virgin, I connected up with someone called Charlotte DeBerg, holder at Sony, who
Yeah.
is an incredible human being again, great person, incredible analyst. And just as part of the data community vibes, we thought, hey, there's no like socials, there's no drinks.
Mm.
And so Charlotte, myself, and Francesca Lamina from Warner's, we got together and said, let's make a data drinks.
Mm.
And so I was in the Universal building, Charlotte was in Sony, Francesca was in Warner's,
Mm-hmm.
and we had the three majors,
Yeah.
created a mailing list, and just said, piss up in a brewery. It can't be that hard.
Yeah.
And we just booked a venue, done drinks, and we done that a couple of times. It went really well.
Yeah.
And so
How many people turned up? Sorry.
so the last one we had 72.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it was pretty much every OCC, BPI,
Yeah.
indies,
Yeah.
like analysts from every corner of the industry
I
came.
love that.
And there's just not really been a place where data and analytics people can socialize.
Mm-hmm.
Got everything approved by comms and put the event together. It went so well that when I left to start 314, I created an email called events@314.com and or 314ent.com, and I thought, let's
Yeah.
make this a thing that we don't need to actually run by
Yes.
kind of the people in the buildings, and
Yeah.
we can just make an event.
Yeah.
And so that's exactly what we've done.
Love that.
The next one's happening May the 7th. If this is released after May the 7th, then you should see some nice pictures on my socials. Hopefully, if it went well. And we've got kind of BPI helping out, a bunch of others helping out. And for me, this helps to create a community. It helps to create an environment that people can kind of meet each other. And like we said at the start of the podcast, having these spaces that you can informally chat to people can come in very useful later on in the career.
Absolutely.
And especially for a room like that, the
Yeah.
value in that kind of room,
Yeah.
these are all people that help make big decisions,
Yeah.
because they are using the data to create analysis that ultimately people in charge will use to make big either signing decisions, business decisions, etc., etc. So I'm super excited about that, and hopefully it goes well. And tune into my LinkedIn page to see a photo.
But like, I just love that. Like, it's just everything that you do. There seems to be this like undercurrent of just bringing people in.
100. That's a good way to summarize.
Yeah, like the more you talk about it, the more it's about everyone. And yes, it can service you in ways, but it's like your work whether it is in music or elsewhere, it's always about how do I get more people in?
Like
How do I connect people?
that's a great way to put it, and I think that's probably been uh not a cheat code, but I'd say it's what has really helped as I've navigated the industry, because ultimately I've had moments where shit hits the fan,
Mm.
but because I've managed to bring some people in along the way, I can call and ask, hey, shit has hit the fan, can I get some help? And most 9 times out of 10, people are super willing to help, which I think, again, dispels the myth of the industry that
Yeah.
everyone's transactional, everyone's
Yeah.
surface level. No, there's real people that
Yeah.
are really going to help for nothing in return, nothing in exchange.
Mm.
And that's really helped, from open desk program to the data drinks
Mm.
to now I've started this No Agenda Sundays vibe in
Yeah.
just Nando's with a bunch of black executives that from different parts of the industry that can just chat
Yeah.
shit with each other without any agenda or
Mm. Mm.
all of these things. I think help to help to create a community.
Yeah.
My
100%.
village, quote unquote,
Yeah.
is is a group of really nice people,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna lie, I'm very privileged now to not have to take shit from people that aren't that nice,
Mm.
and I just want to hang around with nice people.
Yeah.
Being a nice person is free, and I don't really have too much time anymore for I early in my career, yeah, I had to yes or no sir
Yes.
to certain people,
Absolutely.
but now I ain't got time for people that aren't nice, and I
Yeah.
don't think it's that difficult. If you
No.
help someone else along the way, um, the world will be a better place, and there's plenty of resource to go around in this world.
Preach it. Honestly. So when you started out, was the end goal always to start your own label?
Oh, absolutely not. In fact, I don't even know if there was an end goal. Do you know what? That's a good question. Um, I think I've always been ambitious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I dream big.
Mm.
My anxiety usually kills the dream.
Yeah.
But I think as I've grown and imposter syndrome has started to wear off a little bit.
Mm.
It still exists, obviously,
Yeah.
like it does for everyone, and I don't think that's gonna go anywhere completely. But it started to wear off of the kind of medial tasks, so I could do things a lot easier, and I didn't mind doing it. And I
Mm.
knew people would turn up, and I knew if I do this, that will happen
Mm.
based on the way that I think very logically. Like, I've done the analysis here in my brain. If I do this, this should happen. If I do that, that should happen,
Mm.
and that's allowed me to jump, uh, knowing that I've got a parachute on my back, and that parachute on my back is probably the community of the village that I spoke about earlier, of people that I've worked with and helped along the way, and people that have helped me. But I can jump knowing that I've got a pretty big parachute of people in the UK music industry that can help me on my way down.
Yeah, and you've built that. And so my question about the open desk program is obviously, as you said, it's about supporting and opening the door for people from different socioeconomic backgrounds. And I just wondered what made you kind of think that that was a necessary thing to happen.
Yeah, so I think it's a it's a truth that we don't want to face as an industry. We are an industry that prides itself on being quite progressive compared to others, and
Yeah.
actually it is. Like I said, I've done some internships at banks, and I had to talk about cricket, and there was like one woman out of 40 on the floor, and I was definitely the only black person there,
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking about cricket and rugby for like 2 hours straight, and I just
In
didn't
your
get.
gilet.
Yeah, Hollister head to toe. But no, in all seriousness, I think we as an industry pride ourselves on being better than them, being more progressive than them, being nicer people than them. However, in reality, although yes, I did have better experiences in the music industry, there is still a long way to go.
Mm.
My most recent job didn't have many black people in the company.
Yep.
Um, and that's testament to say that even after all these years, even after the open desk program, we've still got some work to do.
Yep.
But the reason that I started it was because I was chair of the charity committee at Universal. Shout out Alex Hannaby, my co-chair as well. Um, but we were talking about a whole bunch of charity initiatives, and the ones that always resonated with me was just what I saw with my eyes. I just look with my eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and it wasn't that hard for me to see, um, and I didn't want to make it a race thing.
Mm.
Yes, I'm black.
Mm.
Yes, I did grow up from a perhaps lower socioeconomic background,
Mm.
but I wanted to give the opportunity that I had to other people.
Mm.
And now that I'm in the building, there's like a picture I saw going around. I don't know if it's a meme or whatever, but it's like someone climbs up the mountain and then they pull the ladder down and
Mm.
they allow the other person to climb up. It's
Yeah.
like if you're up there anyway, just
Yeah.
chuck down the ladder, mate.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's
Yes.
free.
Yeah. It
um,
was already there.
yeah, the ladder's right there.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to chuck down the ladder, and ultimately my focus was socioeconomic background because that is what I know drives a lot of the downstream things that we see
Mm.
that some people blame on race and whatnot. But ultimately, um, my goal was to help people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and I'm very blessed and fortunate to have had a CEO like Tony Harlow who heard the vision and did some great things to help us facilitate it. Of the 13 people that came through, 12 of them were women, which I'm very proud to say,
Mm.
and then 11 black.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, we managed to help a whole bunch of people. Yes, we helped a lot of black people to get into the industry. Yes, we helped a lot of people from low socioeconomic backgrounds. But I think the reason that it was started still exists today, and that is
Mm.
we don't have enough diversity of thought in
Mm.
rooms of leadership.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to see evidence of that sometimes when you look at marketing campaigns of certain demographics of artists and see what's still going on.
Yeah.
Like how, come on, no one's reading the Times, my G. No one's reading the Times for their favorite rapper, my G. Like I don't know what we're doing here. But yeah, it exists. My goal is to hopefully make a more equitable industry
Mm.
where it doesn't really matter where you're from, what you look like, who you are.
Mm.
If you love music and you've got great ideas and you want to work hard, you should be able to find an entry point
Yeah.
to the industry. And hopefully that entry point is able to be marketed so that people in schools growing up know, hey, by the way,
Yeah.
there is jobs like lawyers.
Yeah.
And those jobs are open to me as a young black woman.
Mm.
And I specify young black woman because I think I've had great mentors, shout out Alec Boateng, great black men in the music industry that have ascended to positions of seniority, that are label presidents, that are doing big things, executive vice presidents.
Yeah.
However, one that I haven't seen much of is black women in that position.
Mm.
And I've got a lot of cousins. I'm Nigerian. I got bare cousins.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them, most of them are girls.
Yeah.
When these girls want to be women in the music industry, I have to bear the cross on my shoulders to know that shit, I brought them into this industry and they ain't got no career progression. They ain't got. They're more likely to X. They're more likely to Y. They're more like all of these things, the pressures, the pitfalls that young women in the industry have to face as they rise, are going to exist. And I'm here. What am I doing about it?
I think, as you say, it is better than a bank.
Yeah.
But it still has the same pitfalls, just maybe less obvious in a way.
Yeah, they've
Does
done
that
a
make
good.
sense?
There is that's a great point. It feels like, and I'm gonna hone in on, yes, it is better than some other industries for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels like there's still so much work to be done. But that work's been covered up quite
Yeah.
well. From the outside looking in, you might not necessarily think that, but when you're in the inside, you only need to have a couple of conversations to know that there is still a lot of work that needs to be done.
Yes.
And some people aren't ready to have that conversation.
No, they don't want to relinquish any kind of power,
exactly,
or opportunity, and it's tough. As if you think of it from an artist perspective, they're walking into a label or a team. and they don't see anyone that looks like them or comes from somewhere that they come from or similar style or the way they talk or anything like that, do they feel comfortable that their work, their art is being understood?
And that's a great point because I believe there's a story that happened with Beyonce and one of the brands that she wanted to do a deal with,
Yeah.
and she went with the brand that showed more representation in the office. But
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm gonna say that's a really great point for today, more than any other day, because of artists' autonomy. Artists like Central C have shown that an independent route can take you so far. There's plenty of other artists. We are in a world where everyone can make music in their bedrooms, and artists come into meetings with more power because they've kind of already got a buzz by the time they enter the room.
Yeah.
And deal structures are changing as a result. We've already seen that over the last few years. But what else is going to change is the artist being able to choose, hey, by the way, I've already done all of this. I've made it all the way here. I've already got buzz by myself. I've got my own team. Um, Again, the deal structure's changing because I've already got here, and now I've sat at the table. If I'm not seeing what I want to see, if I don't feel represented, guess what I can do? I can walk out because you come in with a lot more power. And so today, more than ever, it's very important for the companies in our industry to acknowledge and address the fact that representation is important, diversity of thought is important, because if you want to close the deal for these big artists that are walking through the door already half developed, they've got choice now. They've already gone that far by themselves. They don't need to sign this deal, and therefore, if they don't see representation, they are well within their rights to get up and choose someone else who does. And that will happen. I'm 99% sure it's happened. In fact, I'm 100% sure it's happened on a couple of occasions. I can't talk about that here.
So one more question about, like, in terms of being an artist and the role that social media plays. The artists that aren't so savvy on socials, don't feel comfortable showing themselves or whatever it is, are they doing themselves a disservice in terms of audience engagement, like fan reach, all those types of being discovered? What would your advice be to them?
Yeah, so I think that's always gonna, and it's always been the case that it will do you a disservice if you don't show your face. If it was the 90s and we were selling CDs and you had to go on Jonathan Ross, I'm sure Jonathan Ross isn't the 90s. Sorry, Jonathan, you're not that old, but
Is he? I
yeah,
don't
but
know.
like you were on regular TV, you were
Yeah.
on terrestrial TV, you showed your face to sell albums, and things haven't really changed. There was this whole thing with rappers that wore ballies, and
Yeah.
if you took your bally off, you were more likely to make it
Yeah.
purely because, again, we sell an emotive product. We are humans. We require human connection, and that still exists. To find a connection with a fan, you still got to be seen. Um, is it any harder today than it was before to kind of be, if you're not great on socials or if you don't want to show your face? Probably, but there are ways around it. I'm a big believer that great music always finds its way. You do, however, have to put it out there. You do, however, have to figure out innovative ways. Jump on TikTok, figure out a page to make that can put your music out there without you needing to be out there.
Yeah.
Or you get your mates who are good at socials. Any of your mates that knows how to edit pics and shoot content, get them to come around your house and shoot some content. Or whilst you're recording in the studio, just have someone there sitting filming.
Yeah.
Chop that up, put that out.
Yeah.
Some of your clips go out, and one of the songs will resonate with someone.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's worked really well. Sam Smith had a huge hit, which I believe one of the TikTok posts that really helped that out was a studio session. Same for Ray and Mahalia with Terms and Conditions. But there's a whole bunch where you can just sit in the studio and whilst you're making music, have your mate recording you.
Yeah. It doesn't need to be a whole time-consuming thing.
Nah, you don't need. You can go home and forget about it. Your mate can post it for you. In fact, like, but if you're in the studio making music, get some content out of it.
Show the people.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, is it possible? Yes. Is it harder? Probably. But there are plenty of methods that you can employ to get your music out there without you needing to be super hot on socials. And ultimately, the great music will connect. all data is, and for the people that are like, oh no, data's ruining music and data A&R, all data is just telling you what people like. If we think about the first data people, they were old school A&Rs going to gigs, and they'd come back and report back.
Yeah.
How many people were at the show?
Yeah.
What did they look like? What age were they? That's what we're doing. We're just saying demographic data. How many people streaming your song are 16 to 24?
Yeah.
How many people are actually streaming your song? How many people are coming back again?
Yeah.
All of these things existed for years.
Yes.
We're just turning our eyes into ones and zeros. And back in the day, someone would have reported this concert looked like it was sold out. All the kids in there looked really young. There were more girls than there were boys. Now I'm going to do that same shit. This many people, the people are in this age range, and there are more women than men streaming it.
Yeah.
That's
There's no difference. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. We just couldn't do it at scale now, right? I can do that 100,000 times in a couple of seconds, whereas you couldn't go to 100,000 shows back in the day.
No, that's such a good point. So, from starting out to now, how has your perspective on the industry changed, or has it changed?
Yes. Has it changed? Yes. My perspective on the industry has changed a lot, but I think that just happens in life when you learn more. We go in, as most people are, quite naive to the roles that exist in the industry, quite naive to how the industry actually operates. And I am a major label baby. I'm someone that says, hey, I worked major labels and that's my come up. And so I do preach like the importance of them, the economies of scale you get there, because you've got offices in Korea, in China, in Australia, in the United States. Like, they can get your music out there.
Yeah.
So yes, there is a function. Yes, there is an economy that's needed that they've created. But my perception went from, oh shit, I don't know anything about labels. I don't know that they exist. Then I got a job in a label and I thought, oh my gosh, labels do so much. They're so big. Then as I got more senior, I realized, oh, actually, some of the artists are doing quite a lot themselves. And so it's gone in ebbs and flows. And I'm going to get probably to a point where I see more value in labels again. And then I'm going to go down a bit. But ultimately, my hope and my goal is that all of the deals reflect the value that's added, and all of the artist's art can get out, and the labels are just there to facilitate the release of that art.
And it's more of an equal partnership.
Exactly. As long as the artists are getting the value that they feel that the label has given them. So don't be giving up 80% to a label if you don't think they're doing anything. But on the contrary, if they are doing a lot for you, then make sure that they're able to keep the lights on because they've been able to do all of this for you. But it's that value exchange that I think was a little bit imbalanced, and kind of always is. But it feels like we're getting to a point now that
labels are more comfortable to strike the balance.
Absolutely.
So you've touched on in terms of being open to taking opportunities, but for those specifically who want to get into data in music, whether it be in A&R or it be in commercial, what would your advice be to that person?
I think it's very simple. There is one person in the UK that's doing an incredible job of facilitating people that want to get into data in music. And her name is Christine Asazua.
Christine! Woo! I knew she'd come up at some point.
A very good friend of mine in life, but also the most incredible person, and intricately understands the process of getting from I like math or I like data to I want to work in the music industry as a data person. It's very simple. You get on Christine's hackathon, Measure of Music. And you will have judges, mentors who are all hiring people in the music industry that are managing teams, run data organizations, run one of the tools that labels use, or are actively kind of looking for people. And ultimately, even if they're not, doing Measure of Music will help you build the skills needed to succeed in a major label or an indie label, or just consulting for artists, helping them out with their data needs. I think the answer is mad simple. And I think if anyone wants to get into music or data in music and isn't reaching out to Christine or on Measure of Music,
Yeah.
then you're not trying. It's just that real. You're not trying. It's on its 5th year now. I just interviewed her for the 5-year anniversary because I mentored on the first 4 years.
Love
So
that.
she was like, oh, someone who's been there every year to talk about the story of Measure of Music. So
Mm.
I've just done that interview. I believe that's still on her page
Mm-hmm.
if you guys take a look for it. But yeah, it happens every year. It's now just a part of the industry as far as data and analytics is concerned. And it's sponsored by all of the big hitters as far as the data providers that work in the industry. So you'll build a network, you'll meet some people that are in music, and yeah, if you're trying to get into data and music, that's your number one avenue. Number two, I'd say, is figure some shit out yourself. Go on Chartmetric, read the Music Business Worldwide articles, kind of upskill your non-data knowledge, because what's really, really tough is the nuance in music industry data. You could do data at uni, go work at a bank and be the best analyst in the world. None of that means nothing if you come into music, because what's an ISRC? How does that connect to this?
Yeah.
Well, like, these are questions that you don't realize the rest of the world just don't know.
100%.
And kind of familiarizing yourself with, oh, a lean forward stream means that someone is searching for it, or an active stream means someone's searching for it, or they've actively gone out to save it into their library. And then the lean back stuff, which is, I just heard it in a playlist, it came up in my algorithm, but Measure of Music sounds like a cheat code to me.
Such good advice, and it's been so amazing to talk to you. Before you go,
Okay.
do you want to tell us your favourite artist who you're excited about right now? We can go and check them out.
Oh, I really like Nems.
Oh,
at the moment.
Good choice. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. We've been talking for so long, and I've had the best time. Where can people find you on socials? See what you're doing.
At Jeremiah Gogo for most things. I'm private-ish, but LinkedIn is where I'm most open. So if you are on that, I understand a lot of the music industry ain't. But at Jeremiah Gogo on Insta as well. And then at 314 Records on Insta, 314ent.com for everything else.
You can follow me at Saskia Kumba on Instagram and TikTok, and you can follow us at the B-Side Music Pod on Instagram and TikTok. You can even email us on the bsidemusicpod@gmail.com for questions, comments, or suggestions of people you'd like to have as a guest on the show. Thank you so much, Jeremiah.
Thank you, Saskia. Thank you so much for inviting me, and best of luck as the podcast goes on. I'm sure this is going to be something special.
Thank you. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Yay!